So in order to get started on this Ghostbusters practice problem, we're going to need to go up here and create a new project. And when you open your project, it's always a good habit to rename your project. So we're going to rename the project Ghostbusters Variables Practice. Just so when we save this, we have a good idea of what this project is and what this project can help us do in the future. So since we're creating a Ghostbuster scene, it's important that we delete the cat sprite. Then we're going to come down here in New Sprites. We're going to click on this icon and choose from the sprite library. We're going to scroll down until we see the ghost, Ghost 1. I'm going to click and then OK, and now he is in our stage. We're also going to change the backdrop of our stage to look like a creepy woods background. So we're going to go over here where it says New Backdrop, click the first icon, choose Backdrop from Library. If we go to Outdoors and scroll down, the last backdrop here is the creepy woods backdrop. So we are going to go ahead and add that backdrop and click OK. So now we're ready to start beginning our code. So we're going to start with writing our script for our ghost sprite. So just like any other script, it's important to always start your program or your script with an event. So we're just going to pull in this when green flag is clicked. And then we're going to write code for the ghost to repeatedly appear and disappear. Just forever. So we're going to go to Control, add the forever loop. And then if you haven't noticed these blocks already, there's these two blocks in the Looks tab, Hide and Show. These are going to be really useful to create the effect that we want to create within this program. So we're going to pull Hide right under the Forever. And then we can't forget to add some wait blocks, just so things don't happen too quickly that we won't be able to notice them within the program. And then let's click the green flag. And as long as the program is running, our ghost should disappear and then reappear forever, essentially. Now, if you want the ghost to stop appearing and reappearing, you can just click this red stop sign right there, and then he stops appearing and reappearing. Instead of having our ghost stay in the same position, you can let Scratch choose random X and Y coordinates if we wanted the ghost to move across the stage, if we just didn't want him to stay in one spot. So we're going to go to our Motion tab, and we've all used this before, this go to X coordinate, Y coordinate. So we're going to pull that block over into our scripting area. And then if you go to Operators, there's this block, pick random 1 to 10. Those values could obviously be changed in there. So we're going to pull the pick random. We're going to actually pull 2 over. And we're going to place 1 inside the go to X coordinate and the second one into the Y go to coordinate. Now I'm going to change these values to something like, let's say, -150 to +150, and the same for Y. This is just going to, picking these values are just going to allow the ghost to move around the stage without ever leaving the stage. Because if you think back to when we talked about X and Y coordinates and how the stage is set up in a coordinate system, these values will allow the ghost to stay within the stage. So we're going to actually add this go to X block, go to XY block right under our first wait block. So let's see what happens when we click the green flag. So now each time the ghost hides and he shows back up in a spot completely random than where he was at last. And these go to pick random blocks allow us to create that effect. So essentially when the ghost is hidden, you don't really know where he's going to show up next. And then in order to stop, we press the red stop sign. Now, since we want to create more of a game and we want to introduce variables in here, we want the player to actually be able to catch the ghost when the ghost sprite is clicked. So what we can do, if you go to events, there's this events block called when this sprite clicked. We're going to pull that one in. If you notice, all the event blocks, well, most of them besides the broadcast blocks, but most of the events blocks have this half circle part at the top of their block. Now that allows no other block to be clicked in and attached in like the puzzle pieces like the other blocks. So you know an event block will always have to start the program because it can't be connected to any other blocks. So regardless, when this sprite is clicked, we want the ghost to hide. Okay, so it'll create the effect that when the player catches the ghost, he's caught and he's gone. So let's see this. If I click on him, he goes away, goes away, goes away, goes away. So that works out exactly how we intended. But now maybe if it's a game, games have sounds. So let's go to the sounds tab. So you can actually drag in this play sound pop, and we can just link that up with this hide block down here. So now each time that the player clicks the ghost and catches the ghost, it'll play a sound. Now, pop is the only one that's programmed at this current moment within your script, but you also have the ability to add new sounds. So if you go up here, there's a scripts tab, costumes tab, and now a sounds tab. If you click on the sounds tab, this is the only sound that's currently in the program, it's pop. If we wanted to change it to something else, we go to new sound, this first icon, choose sound from library. There are hundreds of sounds to choose from. You can basically choose anything you want. Bell symbol, bird, they all make different sounds. But for now, I'm just going to stick with our pop sound. So when this sprite is clicked, the ghost will hide and play the sound pop. So let's see if this works. Caught him. Caught him. So that works exactly how we wanted it to. So if you think of any games that you've played in the past, there's always some sort of score counting involved. That's how you know if you played the game well or if you didn't. So we're going to use variables to actually create scoring within this Ghostbusters game. So in order to keep score, we need to go over to the orange data tab. And we're going to click make a variable. Now, every time you click make a variable, this new variable box pops up. And it's actually going to allow you to name the new variable. You always want to name your variable something that directly has a relation to the variable you're creating. So if you're creating a variable that keeps track of score, it's probably a good idea to name your variable score. Now, if you notice, the variable is already selected for all sprites, and you want to keep this selected. We want all sprites to be able to use this variable, not just this ghost sprite. So we're going to make sure that for all sprites is selected and then click OK. Now, once you click OK, two things happen. First thing, there's a new set of orange data blocks that appear within the middle of your screen. Those could be used within your program just like any other normal blocks. The second thing that happens when you create a new variable is the variable will actually appear on the Scratch stage. So up in the upper left-hand corner, we have score, and it's at 0 currently. If you don't want your variable to be shown on the Scratch stage, you can simply unclick, and then it will go away. And then if you recheck the box, the score variable will reappear. So it's important for any variable you create to initialize or set the variable at the beginning of your program, kind of just like any sort of reset code that we've created maybe in our animation challenge. So at the beginning of our code, before anything happens with the ghost, we want to set the score to 0. I'm just going to pull that down. We want to set the score to 0 because at the beginning of the game, the player hasn't caught any ghosts yet. So the player's score is simply 0. Now, whenever a ghost is caught by the player, we want to change the player's score by 1. So there's this block here, change score by 1. We're going to pull this block over and drag it under my play sound block. So when the sprite is clicked, the ghost will hide, play the sound, and my score will change by 1 each time a ghost is caught. So let's try it. We're going to press the green flag, caught a ghost, caught, oh, I missed that one, caught 2 ghosts, 3 ghosts, 4 ghosts, 5, and so on. So if you notice the upper left-hand score box in the top of my screen, my score changed to 5 because I was able to catch 5 ghosts. Now, in order to make this game a little bit more interactive and a little bit more like an actual game, let's add a second variable that will make a time limit for our player. So the player will only have a certain amount of time, certain amount of seconds to catch as many ghosts as possible. So we're going to click make a variable once again. And since we're going to be keeping track of time, we should name our variable time for all sprites and click OK. And if you notice, now there's time blocks. Now there aren't a new set of orange blocks, but since we have 2 variables, there's a drop-down menu for each data block, and I can choose whether I want to make that block for score or time. We're going to leave it at time because we already dealt with the score variable blocks. And the time variable shows up on our stage right under our score variable. So, for example, let's say that the player only has 10 seconds to catch as many ghosts as possible. So just like we set the score at the beginning of our program, we initialize the score, we also have to initialize the time. So we're going to drag set time to under our set score to, and let's say the player has 10 seconds to catch as many ghosts as possible. We want the player to be able to tell how many seconds are left in the game. So, in order to do that, we want the timer to count down every second. And then the game should stop when the timer gets to 0. So we're going to create a new set of script. When the green flag is clicked, okay? We're going to pull this set time out because we're just going to make a separate script for our set time block. Let's put this forever block back here. Set time to 10 seconds. And then we're going to create this countdown timer. So we're going to pull in a repeat until loop. So we are going to repeat until we're going to go to Operators tab and add this operator that's blank equals blank. We're going to repeat until the time is at 0. So once it's at 0, the game is over. And then just a good habit, we're going to pull in a wait block. And then if we want to get this countdown effect, we want the time to decrease by 1 each time a second passes. So in order to create that effect, we're going to pull over this change time block, but instead of doing it by +1, we're going to make it by -1, because that's going to decrease the time or add -1 to the time each second that passes. And then once it gets to 0, there's this great block in the control tab. It's the stop all block. The whole game will stop. So let's try it out. We're going to press the green flag. 10, 9, 8. It's counting down, catching as many as I can. And there I go. Everything stopped. Without me pressing the stop sign, the program stopped. The time is at 0, and my score is 4. I was able to catch 4 ghosts. Now, once you have this code, it's always a good habit to save now. Make sure everything's saved so you could use this in as many future projects as you need.